Okay, thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited. We get to talk with my dear friend, Katie Gibbons. Katie and I met, has it been a year ago now? I think it was a year, maybe just a hair over a year ago. I think it was July actually of last year when we met through a group coaching program. And she just was one of these just lovely personalities that you just want to get to know. I remember you were one of the first people that I was just like, I read your profile and I was like, ooh, I kind of like her. And she has some really cute posts about her family. It's like, this is somebody that I could connect with, was what my immediate thought was when I first met, when I first met you. I'm saying it, with air quotes in the online space. But that's how Katie and I met. But Katie is a financial wellness coach. And this is going to be such an interesting conversation because today we're going to be talking about the S personality type with DISC. And I just want to give a quick overview as to what DISC is and the 4 personality buckets for those of you who don't know what DISC is. And then we're going to dive into some really interesting conversation about, what's it like to be an S personality type? And how do you manage some of these hard conversations that I know that you have with your clients, Katie? So we're going to dive into that in just a second. But first, let me give everybody a quick overview. DISC is one of these tools that I use with my clients. In fact, gosh, I've been a DISC facilitator, I think for 5-ish or so years now, have been using it for 15 plus years in my, professional past life and the corporate world and that kind of thing. And it is such an incredible tool to use for leadership teams in general. And what I do with my private clients is it allows me to be able to see how do they best communicate. How are they going to best receive communication from me? And, since I'm working with them privately, and how can we best message who they are to their audiences and communities and that kind of thing. So it's been such a game changer type of a tool to use. And, I know that there's plenty of tools out there, with Enneagram and Myers-Briggs and all of it. I'm a big believer in all of them. I think that you can learn something about yourself through them all. But DISC in particular, DISC, D stands for the dominant personality. So these are people who are extroverts. They're very task focused, but their biggest fear is losing control. C-suite leaders are typically considered, they typically fall into the D, the dominant category. Okay. I is our influencer type of a personality. They fear being taken advantage of. They fear losing respect of other people or people, losing respect for them. They're typically very enthusiastic, energetic, sociable, very talkative, very open as well too. I'm sure you probably can think of some I personalities in your world. The S personality, which is what we're going to be talking about today with my friend Katie, is the Steady-Relator. So these folks fear major change and confrontation. They tend to be introverted, but they're very people focused as well too. How you can identify an S personality is they're very calm, kind of laid back, modest, just very steady, but also can be indecisive as well. And of course, our C personalities are what we call our conscientious types. They fear making a mistake. They're introverts, they're task focused, they're very analytical, precise, logical. They don't express emotions. Typically, some of the people that I've worked with before in the past who have been the C types have been my accountants, my engineering type people, that kind of thing. So just to kind of draw some context on that. But I want to dive into this incredible conversation today with Katie Gibbons. So Katie, just tell us a quick little tidbit about you. What does a financial wellness coach mean? What do you do?
Hey, Heather, I am so excited to be doing this with you. You talked about how we met, and I thought the same thing. Like, when you walk into a room, and nowadays we spend so much time in virtual rooms, but you just get this feeling about somebody. I think that reigns true whether you're in person or online. And so, Heather,
100%.
that's what I felt whenever I met you too. So thank you for that. Going down memory lane and letting us remember how we met. And
Yes.
actually, if you recall, we met for the first time. We have actually been together in person since that original
Yes,
online
we
meeting.
have.
And my
Yes.
husband says, "Are you really going to drive 1.5 hours? Because we're in Texas and we met halfway and like literally stay in a house with someone you've never met before."
And
And
you're like,
I like,
heck yeah, I'm
I'm
going
like,
to.
yeah. So anyway, that's great. Yeah. So I
I
am
love
a
it.
financial wellness coach. What does that mean? I help primarily women, but also couples. I teach them how to make money, manage money, and talk about money. So
Ooh,
I have a passion to help women learn about money because I have seen just in my career of being in the banking industry almost 2 decades, which is what I did before I became a financial coach, was I just saw the lack of financial education and the ability to really understand both the practical and the emotional side of money and how important it is to know to have familiarity with both to be able
wow.
to really make good money decisions, to be able to set financial goals. And, so that's kind of what financial wellness is as a whole. Um, and so the word wealth, just for you to kind of think about, the word wealth, actually, when you look at the root of it, it's an old English word that actually
Mhm.
means well-being and to be well.
Interesting.
So
Interesting.
I really help people get to the well-being of
Yeah.
finances. And that's what I meet with people and help them do.
Yeah. And Katie and I have had so many conversations about some of the tough conversations that she's had to have with her clients as well, too, when they're taking these financial wellness journeys, if you will, because it's a journey. I mean, you're never going to
Absolutely.
arrive anywhere with a straight shot. You're just not. And so, Katie, and we'll dive into some of these stories, I'm sure, as well, too. But Katie is an SI mix. So she is a steady relator, calm, laid back, modest, but then she also has a little bit of I in her. So, I mean, she's got to have, and I've seen you on the dance floor. So I know you've got some energy and a lot of fun back behind the steady relator, mix that you have. So, and I'm sure talking with couples as well, too, and women on their, financial wellness journeys that they're taking. How do you feel like your personality has, again, just knowing that when people call you, when people need you, they're likely I would think, likely in a place of distress. And I mean, anytime somebody calls a therapist, they're typically calling because something is wrong. Something is wrong in the relationship. Something's wrong with their money, whatever the case may be. So with your steady relator, backdrop to your personality, how do you feel that has helped your clients with, frankly, probably some of their darkest moments, I would think?
Yeah, I know that you refer to the secret sauce a lot of times in
Yes.
in what you talk about. And I do believe that is my secret sauce because you're right. Most of the time, when I get a call from a woman and she can either be single or she can be married, the house is on fire. So,
Yeah.
you know, she is anxious about money. She's stressed about money. She feels maybe even uncomfortable to talk about it because, we are taught as women to, or really, we're taught as a whole to just keep money very private. We don't talk about
Yeah.
it. And so there's some shame that comes into play a lot of times, some guilt from overspending. This is when I'm interacting with someone who's going to reach out for me to help them. And I do believe that my steadiness, my calmness, my very empathetic approach is
Yeah.
what helps people feel safe and secure.
Yes. Yeah.
And, no one is going to share some of their most intimate details about their finances or their marriage with someone who they don't have a safe, trusting feeling with.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think that is a strength of mine to be able to do what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's what gives people a lot of comfort when they work with me.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, I was just thinking as you were talking, some of the S personalities that I have in my life, other friends and people that I've worked with in the past and that kind of thing, people who have that strong, empathetic, just calm demeanor. Um, they add so much peace to the storm, frankly, that we're all facing on a daily basis. I mean, everybody has something going on. My dad always would say, everybody has a mountain on their back, so just be kind. And so your personality, and I'll cry, gosh, I'm a crier, but your personality type helps keep the lid on things and helps people feel like they're seen, heard, and understood, and that they can be able to talk, to you about, again, their most vulnerable, the hardest things that people are having to deal with marriage and money.
Yep.
So I'm also curious too, Katie, we talk about this, that being such a strength for your personality, the calm and steadiness. What do you feel like has been the biggest challenge of your personality type as well, too?
Yeah, well, knowing what I know about the S personality, the fear of the two that you mentioned, the fear of change, the fear of conflict.
Yeah.
Fear of conflict definitely has always been something for me,
Yeah.
more so than I would say fear of change. And fear of change may have been a part of who I am at one point, but I also believe that life circumstances and your experience can play into it as well.
Oh, yeah,
and I've had a lot of change in my experience in life. So I am not as afraid of the fear of change as I am with the fear of conflict. And, this is an area that I have had to work on and within myself. And, we're always doing work on ourselves, right? Or at least you should, I believe you should be.
Yes.
And so I've got some people pleasing tendencies, right?
Oh, Lordy.
And so, that fear of conflict shows up when I'm trying to people please. So if I can keep the people pleasing under wraps and I can recognize that in myself, then I can manage this fear of conflict.
Sure.
And as I have evolved in my career and evolved as a coach, understanding that conflict can be very powerful for change, and it's necessary. And I see this in the couples that I counsel and that I coach, is that I'd say all the time, guys, if you're fighting about money, that's not always a bad thing, because conflict can really lead to some very powerful understanding of yourself, of each other, and really is the catalyst for change.
Oh, absolutely it is. Wow. Okay. So talk to me about, let's go back to the people pleasing, just because I shudder, because I struggle with that, and I'm constantly having to be very aware of that as well too. So what do you do to keep that S part? Because I have some tendencies on S as well too. I do. And they rear their ugly head in conflict, especially with people that I love. I mean, it's just, that's how I roll.
Yeah, that's right. Very common.
Very, very common. But what do you do to keep the lid on the people pleasing?
Yeah, sometimes I probably do this a lot better than others. I probably need to work on that. So what happens in conflict is that you end up resorting naturally, without even thinking about it. You resort to very ineffective modes of resolution.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so I have to have that constant conversation with myself about, is the people pleaser in me? Is that the part that's afraid to get into a conversation?
Yes.
And if it's a people pleasing situation, then the first step is to recognize that.
Yeah.
And then to say, okay, I have the coping skills. I know what I need to be doing, and to embrace the hard, because sometimes it is hard. Sometimes you're not going to be liked. I think it's probably typical for S's, right? We want to be liked. We are relatable. We are empathetic. Like, we want to be liked. And there was a situation where I had to enter into a conflict and be very direct, which I had to probably put more of a D hat on, right? Yeah. I had to be direct. Do you know that when I was direct, giving the feedback that I needed to give to someone who was on a team with me, she actually appreciated the directness. So what I was thinking was going to be conflict was actually very much appreciated. So the people pleaser in me ultimately felt satisfied, because that conflict was very necessary to get us
Interesting.
to the next step. So I think
Oh
it's that
yeah,
emotional intelligence, that
it
awareness
is.
that it can be for good. Conflict doesn't have to be bad, and that, if people pleasing, and when I say people pleasing, I would say I'd qualify that better with wanting to make sure everyone likes me, right? That
Yes.
deep desire for
Yes.
people to like me and
Yeah.
respect me. That is sometimes important. You will get that respect when you enter some hard conversations.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And those hard conversations can be hard to get into, but once you're in them and come out on the other side, it's like, whew, I'm glad I did that. And
Yeah,
it took me a long time to get to that place, you know.
absolutely.
So let's talk about your business and how you have quite the Instagram page, tons of content, and at the end of this you'll have to tell people where to find you on Instagram, but tons of content on Instagram. But do you find that when you're messaging your business that you have the calmness in your copy and the calmness in some of your messaging that you put out there as well too? Talk to me about the messaging side of being the S type.
Yeah, I would like to think that I do. In fact, when I was talking with a coach, my question about my content, because they were auditing my content,
Yeah.
and I said, "Am I being direct enough? Right? Am I
How funny.
am
Yeah.
I is there enough of authority in what I'm saying? Because hey, as a business owner and in terms of having credibility, right?
Right.
I have to you have to be direct in your messaging. And so
Yeah.
is too much of this relatability
Yes.
coming out and it's not actually empowering someone to hire me? Right? Is it just very
Ooh.
inspirational and
Right.
encouraging? Because that's my natural nature, right?
Yeah.
Am I calling to action to the prospects and to the people that are looking at my
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah.
Do you feel like your messaging has changed from when you first got started and down this entrepreneurial road to where you are now? Do you feel like that messaging has shifted at all from being that more inspirational piece to now it's like, I'll give you the inspiration, but I'm going to also educate you and I'm going to tell you what you need to do next too, for that matter?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I feel like that's a natural
Yes.
progression for
Yeah.
a lot of people, probably no matter your type. You could look at an I and who has a lot of fun and there's a lot of fun stuff going on, but it's like, hey, do you ever get to the business part?
Right.
Or
Yes.
they're the ones at the networking events that are like, hey, let's have a party. It's like, yeah, but are you selling anything?
Yeah.
You know,
Yes. Yes.
so
Yes.
so
Yes.
I think, with the S, I can make you feel so calm and and I can help you have hope, right? I
Right.
want you to see that there is hope, but you have to act,
Right.
right? So there's
Yeah.
that dichotomy of like both messages have to go out.
Yeah.
It's this security, it's this like let's kind of temper the situation.
Yeah.
Um, but also have a direct call to action as well.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. What types of clients do you feel like you have best resonated with? What types of clients do you feel like you've really loved working with?
Hmm. I've probably worked over 2 decades. I've worked with every type
Yeah, I'm sure
of
you
of person. Um, I believe that I really do believe that I have a good skill set to be able to tap in, to be able to speak to whoever it is here with me, whether they're a
have.
D like I some of my best clients have been engineers, right? The
Mhm.
C type need a lot of analytical data,
Yeah,
need a lot of information. So especially in finances, right? They want a lot of historical information. They want
sure.
a direct plan. They want numbers. They want to dig into the numbers. Um, and so I can do that, right?
Yeah.
I can do that. They have a harder time tapping into the emotional side of money,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so I have to work a little bit harder. So it's really a give and a take
Yeah.
in that in those sessions. I really see it play out with couples who may be different types and are needing to be able to communicate about money or make big financial decisions for their family. And because I am the S and I am that steady relator, I can help two parties get on the same page. right?
Yeah.
So I can take a D and I can take a fellow S or an I, the spouse who wants to go out and spend a lot of money and have parties and live in their I-ness, but married to a D or married to a C who needs like a reconciliation of
Yeah, yeah,
accounts,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like I being an S
Oh,
is
yeah.
is a great place to be
Oh,
able
in
to
fact,
bring those two together.
oh, absolutely. In fact, I would say that you are beautifully positioned with your type to do the work that you do. I mean, I can honestly say, so I'm a DI mix, is what I am. And so and I find that the older that I get, I become more D, it seems like. And, dominant, just give it to me in bite-sized nuggets. What's the end result? Where are we headed? Let's get it done. I mean, you know me well enough to know that it's like, if I put a task on paper, like it's going to get done and it's going to get done yesterday kind of a thing. And I find that certain personality types are really hard. In fact, the C type is a really hard type for me to get on the same page with. A, I'm an extrovert. B, I'm very task driven, but I also like to have a really good time as well too. And so introverts who are task driven as well, but just really introvert, very analytical, no emotion. I can't, that's a really hard personality for me to tap into. So it's like when I'm intaking new clients, I always think about that. I mean, I typically, not all the time, typically don't take on hard C personalities. I just typically don't, because it's just too much of a battle of the mind, so to speak. And so what is so beautiful about your personality type is that because you are the Steady-Relator, the calm and the storm, you can work with all types because you want steadiness, you want peaceful, you want harmony, and you're just, again, so beautifully positioned to do what it is that you do. So I love that.
Thank you. Yeah,
Tell
in
me
my
this.
former when I was in banking, I was a high net worth private client commercial banker. So I dealt with, I would say, mostly D's and C's.
Yeah.
They were your C suites, your high earners, doctors,
Yeah.
just very conscientious people. And, I think that what they appreciated about me being their banker is that I cared about them and their
Mhm.
money,
Yeah.
uh so that really gave them a lot of comfort and
Oh,
a lot
absolutely.
of security. And when it comes to money, people need to be able to trust the
Yes.
person that's talking with them. And so, as terms of being then a business owner, so if I put my business owner hat on and we talk about content and messaging and Instagram and what are you saying, it is really, really important for me to be able to build trust and
Yeah.
credibility in that content so that
Yeah.
when I have these D's and C's, they understand that I have credibility when I speak,
Right.
right?
Right.
It
Right.
means
Yeah.
something to them because, my approach may be very different than theirs, but they believe that I am the person that can help them.
Yeah.
And there's a
Absolutely.
little bit more buy-in there.
Oh, for sure. 100% on that. Okay. So talk to me quickly about what personality type. I mean, yes, you're the S, so you can kind of get along with them all for sure. But is there a certain personality type that is harder for you? I mean, you'd mentioned the C, but the D might be pretty hard for you too.
It
But
is
talk to me about
obviously
that.
because I don't want the conflict. I think
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think I think D's don't give into the whole conflict. Like they're ready for not ready for the fight, right? But
They
they're a little
are.
bit more accepting of that harder conversation. And especially early in my career, I can recall a D personality type, and he made me cry. So I was like,
No.
yeah, can you imagine?
Oh,
I was 22 years old when I started in banking, and so
yeah.
I was handling finances for very wealthy people who were in very powerful positions, and that scared me, right? Because I don't like the conflict, and I would get nervous to be in a meeting with a D because I would be
Yeah.
afraid that they would ask me a question and I would know, and I would appear to be weak. And
Right.
to a D personality, like
Yeah.
they don't want to see weakness,
No. Mm.
particularly with money. right? So I would say that is the personality type that I've had to work the hardest
Yeah.
to maneuver the communication with.
Interesting. Yeah, I would think an S's typically have a really hard time with the D's. They just do. Unless there's a little ice sprinkled in and we can have some fun together on the dance floor. And then it's all good.
Then it's all fun.
Then it's all good.
Now, look, I would say that that has taken some practice and some skill
Oh my
and
gosh.
some confidence and some experience. And so that's not as much of an issue, but I know when I run into a D, and I actually am coaching a D right now, and this person doesn't want to get into the touchy-feely of finance, which is critical for my program. And so, if you don't want to go down the kind of the emotions of money, then you probably won't like my program, and that's okay. But that is the thing that's going to make the difference in terms of transforming your financial future. So this person is like, I don't want to talk about my feelings. I don't want to talk about my money story. I just need a plan to execute. And I'm like, well, this relationship might not work, right? And so it's also having the confidence to say, maybe I am not the right fit for you.
Right.
And that's okay too. Like learning to accept that I am not for everyone and everyone is not for me. I think as a business owner, that's a big hurdle that has to be crossed. And I'm not always great at it, but I know in my mind that, if you're working with someone that you're not jiving, it's not going to be a pleasurable experience.
Isn't it though? And that's why I think it's so important to have such a high level of self-awareness as to how do you communicate? How do you manage your workflow? How do you do what you do? Because it really does have to be in alignment with the people that you take on, or you're going to hate your life. Like you will. And nobody's got time for that. I mean, I want peace and harmony in my life as much as the next person. And so there's been clients there's one client that I can think of right now off the top of my head that I had to fire. I had to let go of her because we were never going to get there. Like we were never going to get there. We were never going to see eye to eye. And again, what I love about DISC and frankly, any and all of these personality assessments that are out there, but DISC for me is just super simple. It's DISC. It's 4 letters. It's 4 buckets of, characteristics that you need to be aware of. But, for me, it's just, it allows me to be able to quickly identify, is this the type of person that I'm really going to be able to help or not? Because I don't want to waste their time. And I definitely don't want to waste my time either for that.
Right.
So anyway, I'm curious too, have you thought about, how you buy your products and services and the marketing and the messaging that aligns to your personality? What types of messages have you seen out there? You're like, ooh, that really resonated with me. And why did it? I'm curious.
Yeah. So I tend to buy on emotion. And
imagine that.
And I love a good brand story, right? Like if I can buy into a story for why your company started, why this product was such a game changer for someone else that bought it. What was the testimony? So I'm big into testimonials. Like if I go to Amazon right now, I probably saw something from an influencer. And it was like, oh, I like this. Then I'm going to go and I'm not even really buying on price. I'm not looking at what it's made of. I'm not jumping into the analytical features of it, but I'm immediately going to testimonials. I'm going to go look at the reviews.
Interesting.
And I'm going to kind of be more on the emotional side of it.
Yeah.
And that's how I buy a lot of things that I buy.
And funny enough, I mean, even with DISC, they will tell you the thing that you can do, the biggest thing as a business owner, somebody selling a product or service can do for an S-type personality, testimonials. You can't have enough testimonials for our S-type people out there.
Yeah, I have a question for you. So being a DISC expert, does it make sense that an S would want the testimonials? And are there are the other profiles D, I, or C, are they less likely to look at a testimonial?
Yeah, actually. So your C-type personalities, the engineer, accountant types, they want lots of data to show, like how is this going to help me? How, they want to read through all of the information. If you've got spreadsheets to show, trends and analyses and that kind of thing, that's what they're going to be most interested in. Your D-type personalities just want to see the end result. Like, what is this going to get me at the end? What is it going to get me? That's all they're interested in. Funny enough, your I's are kind of a mix between your S and your D's. Your I's really, they want to know what that end result's going to look like for sure, but they're people as well too. So they want to see those testimonials. They want to see what people are saying about you. They want to make sure that it's going to be an enjoyable experience. They want to see energy and everybody's having a good time and that kind of thing in those testimonials. So those are the little nuances in between the personality types. That's why it's so important to know who are you really trying to target as your customer, because how you display your messages on your website, on Instagram stories, LinkedIn post, whatever it is, really does need to be tailored to that person that you really are intending, that you really want to have as a client, because not everybody works the same. Not everybody needs the same type of information.
Yeah. And I think, and you and I have had so many conversations about some of this, but when you first start off as a business owner, or you're just really kind of dipping your toe into the marketing and the attraction side of your business, right? Is that you want to help everyone. Right. Like I want to help everyone. I believe I can help everyone. Yes. But if I talk to everyone, then I'm talking to no one. Right. So it's like getting your messaging really to align with the people you want to draw in and you want Absolutely. To work with you. Like you said, if I filled my schedule with a whole bunch of D's, I probably would hate life. Right.
You probably would. Yes.
So if I am just feature dumping all the time and I'm not doing the other things, then I'm going to perhaps attract that type of customer, and that might not be ideal for my business.
Absolutely. And again, I know that we both have had a business coach that have said you really do have to put information out there that feels good to you. Right. It's got to feel right. It's got to feel good. And I'm a firm believer in that. As woo-woo as some people might make that sound, let me tell you, if you're putting information out there that doesn't really feel right and align to how your personality and what feels right for you, you're going to attract the wrong people. Mm-hmm. And that's, you're going to work with the D's. And if the D's suck the life out of you, then maybe you don't need to be putting information out into the world that really attracts them. It's something just to be mindful of, having awareness for your messaging and how you're positioning yourself as a brand out there. So anyway, okay, I want to wrap things up here quickly. Gosh, this has been such a great conversation. I have enjoyed it so much. I mean, the S types, you all get along with anybody and everybody, but you still have to message yourself a certain way, as Katie and I were just talking. So Katie, tell me, where can people find you and online, and where are you pushing people to? What do you have going on in your business right now that you'd like to feature?
Yeah, I love that. So you can find me at katiegibbons.co. That's at katiegibbons.co. I hang out on Instagram, and I'm working on an exciting new project that's going to be launching this fall. It's going to be a new website. I have an ebook, workbook, and a podcast coming this fall. Woo! And it's called Unmask Money. So go and check that out. Unmaskmoney.com. It will be the website. But in that podcast, I'm really going to be sharing a lot of what I talk about in terms of the emotional side of money. Unmasking money is what we're going to do. And so we're going to talk about the practical side. I'm going to have tips and tricks, but I'm also going to talk about how do you have conversations with your spouse? How do you teach your kids about money? Like, let's unmask money. Let's start talking about it so that it becomes a tool that you can use in your life and it not be a hindrance or something that really keeps you stuck.
Yeah, I love that. And for anybody listening, I just have to say, Katie Gibbons is the girl. I mean, you have, I don't want to cry, but you have saved me on countless occasions with having those hard conversation prompts when you need to talk about money, when you need to talk about future finances and that. Katie is the woman who can shed so much light onto how to even have those conversations in the first place, because it seems scary and overwhelming. For somebody like me, the people pleaser tendencies come out, but you've got to be able to push through it and have those hard conversations regardless in order to have a good relationship, with your spouse, with your partner, with yourself too, for that
Yeah.
matter, and
Yeah.
not lying to yourself about what's going on.
I always say the first and best conversation to have about money is with yourself.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so much that culturally we're told about money. There's so many beliefs we hold on to in terms of money. And it's, specifically for women, money is a source of safety and security. And so when that's
Oh,
out of line and there's not a lot of clarity there, and you feel overwhelmed and you don't have the answers to your money questions, because think about it, who are you asking your money questions to? I mean,
mhm.
women talk about a lot of stuff. We talk about a lot of things going on in our life, but
Yes.
it
Yeah.
is very rare for women to sit around the table and talk about money. It just doesn't usually happen. So I want us to be able to have a safe space to be able to talk about money and really just, take the mystery out of it.
Yeah, I love it. And we're going to talk about it on your podcast, I'm sure, at some
Yes,
point too.
it's
Can't wait.
coming.
All right. Thank you, sister. I appreciate you being here. I'm going to stop the recording.